It was the distant 1990s, a turbulent time after the collapse of the Soviet Union. People were losing their jobs, struggling to make a living in the changed circumstances. Katya and Sasha had known each other since childhood. They'd gone to school together and graduated from college together. They found jobs. The pay was small and often delayed, but that didn't stop them from being happy. Sasha proposed, and she accepted. Knowing of her dream, Katya wanted a beautiful wedding dress. Sasha decided to go to Moscow to earn money. At that time, many people left for big cities to work, often returning with good money by the standards of the time. Katya tried to dissuade him, as if she sensed something, but he left anyway. At first, she received letters. Sasha wrote to her almost every day, and then the last letter read, "Wait, I bought a train ticket. I'll be there soon and make your dream come true." She waited. A week, a month, a year, but he still didn't show up. A few years later, he was declared missing, and she cursed and blamed herself for not stopping him when he left. And then 4 years later, she suddenly heard a knock on the door at night. Her first thought was, it's strange that the bell didn't ring. And who would that be at 3 a.m. anyway? The knock came again. Katya walked up to the door, looked through the peephole, and saw him standing there. Sasha was standing there, just as she remembered him, as if those 4 years had never happened. He seemed to sense her presence and said, "As promised, I've come to make your dream come true." And he smiled, that same dreamer's smile she loved. She was about to open the door when something tugged at her hand. Something in his words and behavior alerted her. She couldn't quite put her finger on it, because she'd been waiting for him so long, missed him so much, replayed their meetings and moonlit walks, their carefree fooling around together, so many times in her mind. But something about him was off, and somewhere deep down she felt this wasn't her Sasha. Then the knock rang out again. "Oh, why are you being silly?" "It's your Sasha. Open the door and meet me." She hesitated, then finally managed to say that 4 years had already passed and he'd been declared missing. He laughed and said it was a mistake. He'd been attacked on the train, his money stolen, and then hit on the head and thrown out of the car. He couldn't remember. He'd been trying to remember who he was for all these 4 years. And then came another knock on the door, and an insistent, "Katyusha, open up. I'm with the hotels." She looked through the peephole again. Sasha was standing in the same place, only now he was holding a large bouquet of roses and had a duffel bag slung over his shoulder, very similar to the one he'd left with back then. She thought about it. He'd left in the fall and was supposed to be returning after the first snow. Some inconsistencies in his story bothered her. Somewhere in the back of her mind, an old story her grandmother had told her about not letting someone in at 3 a.m. floated back to her, but she couldn't quite remember it. He continued knocking and gently begged her to open the door. But Katya was relentless. She decided to wait until morning, until the roosters crowed, and then open the door if Sasha was still there. She remembered that roosters in the village usually crowed at 5 a.m., so she decided to wait until 6. After all, what was 3 hours to the man she'd waited for 4 years for? And then, morning came. The clock in the room struck 6. By then, Sasha hadn't knocked or tried to persuade her to open the door for a long time. She looked through the peephole again. There was no one there. She finally decided to open the door. The clock ticked relentlessly. When Katya opened the door, A wave of cold air washed over her. She looked into the hallway, but there was no one there. Her heart pounded, and her inner voice again told her that something was wrong. She took a step forward, but at that moment she noticed a mysterious shadow lingering on the floor, exactly where Sasha had stood. A rather strange figure, seemingly blurry and inconspicuous in the morning light. Katya walked around the hallway and peered through the window. There was no one on the sidewalk below. She turned back to the door, but froze for a moment when she noticed something strange on the floor. A piece of paper, carefully folded in half. She picked it up with trepidation. Written on the paper was something similar to Sasha's handwriting. "Katya, I know how you waited for me. I'm sorry, but you must understand that I didn't come back alone. I'm not the one who left. Open the door and you'll see." Katya felt a wave of panic wash over her. She remembered that old fairy tale her grandmother used to tell, about how at 3 a.m. it wasn't the real ones who came, but the imitators. Her hands trembling, she decided she needed to call the police. But first, her instincts told her she needed to check everything around her again. She had no idea the window was slowly opening behind her, filling the room with a faint chill. Katya instinctively turned around. In the corner of the room, in the shadows, stood a silhouette very much like Sasha. He was smiling, but it wasn't his smile. It was wrong. His eyes glittered like a bird of prey, and his skin was pale. He said in a quiet voice, "Well, will you open it? Time is running out. We have to make it before sunset." Katya, trying to remain calm, retreated to the door, and at that moment, all her instincts screamed for help. She made a decision. Her grandmother's words came flooding back to her. "Don't open the door at night. Don't let the dark ones in." At that moment, a strange rustling sound was heard in the room, as if something were attacking the walls, sliding across the floor. And whatever had originally been behind the door suddenly moved into the space between them. Katya quickly locked the door, looked around, and noticed the clock on the wall had begun to chime. But instead of its usual rhythm, it was ticking strangely and indistinctly, creating an eerie sound that was making it difficult for her to grasp reality. She knew she had to run, but she didn't know where. The silhouette that had once been her beloved continued to move, as if growing in the darkness. "Katyusha, don't worry," said this entity, now clearly no longer human. "I've returned. Open up and give me a single emotion. Give me your soul." Feeling cold sweat trickling down her back, Katya remembered her phone. She grabbed it in a rush, but when she tried to dial, the screen only flickered quietly, as if indicating that there would never be a connection. Confusion and fear filled her. She knew she had to make a choice. Trust the instinct that told her not to open the door, or give a chance to the one who might have been her love. At this moment, every choice she made could have consequences. She couldn't remain inactive. And so, in the cold gloom of the morning light, she prepared to confront her destiny.